For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. John 3:16. By the eyewitness account of 500 souls, including his apostles, we heard of the true story of Jesus Christ. It was his story that changed our story.
Hi, my name is Wintona Clayborne, and this is how Jesus' story changed my story. So I grew up in Baltimore City, and about 12 years old, I struggled with suicidal thoughts. Um, and this was something that I had struggled with growing up, but I did know at that time that I did serve a God that loved me. And so fast forward in my life, in about 2015, I had gone through a divorce. I had lost my home, I had lost my vehicle, and at that time I had felt so alone and angry. And so that 12-year-old that struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts, it began to develop and come back in my adult years. This anger, this frustration, this depression had led me to begin to pull more and more away from God. Around that same time, or the end of that year, I was about 37 and I was diagnosed what's called colon rectal cancer. And what's so important about that age is that most people that have colorectal cancer get it at about 50 to 55. So they would have never checked me for colorectal cancer. But I served a God that saw where I was, and this colorectal cancer would not be my end or my defeat. I knew that my God had never failed me, especially in my mind when it came to just being healthy. I knew that at any moment I would go to the doctor and they would say, false alarm, we no longer see any cancer. As I went to different doctors over and over again, I waited for a different answer. I was told that I would need to have a very drastic surgery, and this particular surgery would leave me on a colostomy bag for the rest of my life, all while still having to go through chemo. And so you would think at this moment I would have gone through this spiral of depression from this 12-year-old girl, but I didn't, because I still served a great God. But I was confused. I didn't understand what was going on. And so in this process, I wasn't necessarily angry at God. I was more in a fearful state. That was my new mountain I would need to face. And so finally, I was impressed upon to go to the place called Cancer Treatment Centers of America and maybe get one more answer, another option. And so I went to the cancer treatment centers and I was given two options, and I had to pray about these options, and God, they revealed to me in a dream of what option I needed to take. And so this option would be physically a painful physical journey that I would have to eventually walk alone, just as God had ordered. I remember getting the news that I wouldn't really be able to see my girls as much as I want to. I would pretty much live in Pennsylvania while I was going through the treatments, and my girls would be home. And so I only got to see my girls on the weekend. Well, I had gone through a lot of pain, a lot of tears, a lot of heartbreak. It was uncontrollable, and I just didn't understand what was going on. And so eventually, I called my first lady. I had called her several times, but this one was a different call. And I said, whatever God wants me to do, I will do. And I also remember hearing God say, or telling God, I was coming back. And in his beautiful voice, he said, you weren't moving fast enough. And so I didn't know at that moment that this cancer would be what saved my life. And I'm not talking about natural life. I'm talking about my spiritual life. And I know that sounds strange, but it really did. The journey was not over. There was a decision, again, like I said, that I need to make. And First Lady helped and counseled me through that decision. And so I had made the decision to go through chemotherapy and radiation. With the chemo and radiation, it caused me to lose a lot of weight. I was very sick. I couldn't really eat, and I was in a lot of pain. But again, most importantly, I wouldn't be able to see my girls, and I only could see them on the weekend. I remember seeing their faces, and my oldest always told me, Mom, I had to hold back my tears because I didn't want you to see me cry. So this wasn't just my battle, it was theirs. I came out of this process, and God, He really kept me. The doctors could never explain how my blood work showed no signs of treatment. They didn't understand how my levels were at the level that they were at. And because I served a great God, He was keeping my blood levels to a point where it showed no signs of the effects of the chemo and radiation. I became known for my smile that I kept on my face and showing love to everyone that I came across every time I went. I had to get checked, and again, no signs of cancer. After this, I spent years having to be checked, and that brought out a different fear. It brought out a fear that you would categorize as PTSD. And so pretty much what would happen is every time I would go to get checked at the cancer treatment centers, I would go through this spiral of depression and fear. And so I knew that I needed to seek a God that was my healer of not only my body physically, but a healer of my mind state and my emotional state. Through this process, I finally had to get one more check. And when they went to check me again, I was cancer free. And that process required me to get checked every 6 months, every year, and then every 3 years, to eventually, when I came back to Maryland, I went and saw my doctor. He said, Girl, I don't need to see you. You are cancer free. You're great. You're okay. You're healthy. And so my God had brought me through a painful journey, a journey of fear, a journey that encompasses loss, a journey that I had to walk with Him alone. But God brought me through this mountain. I conquered this mountain of fear, and I conquered this mountain of cancer. And now I'm standing here telling you that everything I lost, God brought back tenfold.